Welcome, Drink with James, episode 107. Feels like every person I know this week, it's not their birthday, but it's their significant other's birthday. I've had like 4 friends have either their boyfriends, girlfriends, wives, husbands' birthdays. Tim went to the Polo Bar for the first time, took the missus out. My girlfriend's birthday is tomorrow. It's her first birthday since we've been dating. Very important. You don't want to blow the birthday. And she did a great job on my birthday, so the bar is decently high. So I'm hoping I clear it. If not, I'm sure she'll let me know. So Tim went to the Polo Bar. Have you guys? I don't think I've talked about the Polo Bar in quite some time. Polo Bar continues to be my favorite space in New York City. Carbone is like right there. It's like chomping at the heels of Polo Bar. They're both equally annoying to get a reservation. They're both beautiful. Carbone has better music. Polo Bar is a better general vibe, I think. Carbone's food is better. Polo Bar is half the cost. There's a lot of pros and cons here. Let me know, are you a Polo Bar person or a Carbone person? Or are you just like not an asshole like me? You don't sit around thinking about these things all day. But if you were coming to New York City, I think Carbone is a little ridiculous as far as price goes for, well, anyone. I went once, but I didn't pay. I would have been upset if I had to pay. Thank you, Nacho. But Polo Bar, if you're coming to the city, 30 days in advance, make a reservation at Polo Bar. It's not crazy expensive. It is the most beautiful restaurant in New York City. It's fantastic. Every man in there is in a suit and jacket. Everyone looks awesome. Everyone is like 75 years old. It's a fucking great space. If you're coming to New York, book a reservation at the Polo Bar, but you do need to do it like a month or so out because it is a difficult reservation to get. But go, let me know how it goes. Tim was distraught this morning because he accidentally tipped 60% on his bill last night, which is tough. It's like, if you're gonna be that generous, you want to like do it on purpose and be like, okay, I'm gonna do this good deed, not like put yourself in the hole for the next 2 weeks. So pray for Tim. Hashtag pray for Tim. Question number 1 is, what do I think about the new question feature in Insta Stories? How should influencers be using it, thinking about it, etc., etc.? For me, the implication is ask me a question about me because I'm so interesting. And I know you're my audience, you have burning questions that you want to ask me. So again, I think you can push it to a place that's more interesting. Ask me a question about blank. Look, Instagram is good at what they do. They understand that people have an innate, burning desire to talk about themselves. That is literally all people want to do is talk about themselves. Side note, if you have ever read How to Win Friends and Influence People, that whole book is essentially, if you want people to like you, just allow them to talk about themselves constantly. Ask them questions. Don't walk into a conversation and be like, I don't care if I say anything about myself. I'm just gonna ask them questions and let them talk, and you will be universally loved because humans just like to talk about themselves. That is their thing they are most interested in the world. And so it's very smart of Instagram because influencers are going out there being like, ask me a question, which is their way of saying, ask me something about myself that I can pick and choose the questions I answer and answer things about me that I think are great. I haven't seen anything interesting, honestly. I think some of the more technical questions for photographers could be interesting. A lot of it is mindless drivel, you know. Where do you get inspiration? Travel. oh, fucking, like, fuck, you know? And like, let's talk about travel real quick. Every influencer in the world running off and living in Italy for 2 months is annoying for a lot of reasons. One, you guys know I've harped on this a bit. If you were running off to spend like 3 weeks in Positano this summer, it's just like, get a fucking life. Like, get creative, do something different. There are a lot of amazing places in the world, and I've been on this rant many times, and I will continue to go on this rant. Amalfi, Positano are beautiful. Paris is beautiful. There are a lot of other places in the world. Check them out, show them to your followers. If you are fortunate enough to be able to use your following or the money that you make from that following to travel and show people new places, then fucking show them a new place. I don't want to see Positano ever again. I have no interest. So I just don't get it. I don't get it. Every influencer does their like European summer and they all fly to Paris. They spend a few days in Paris for couture, and then they go to Italy, and you know, maybe they pop by Florence, and then they go down to Positano for 2 weeks and like sit on boats. It's very, very boring. And I understand these are first world problems to the 10th degree, but your job is to inspire people, and I cannot understand why influencers don't go to more interesting places. And sometimes in my darker moments, it's because I think that they're not very interesting. So, what was I saying? Oh, questions, right, okay, so, questions. They are a lot of self-centered drivel. I think that you can use these questions to, you know, help your audience understand you or the things that you're good at or interested in more and more effectively. Look, if you just say, ask me a question, pick something interesting. Don't just pick the ones that you think like make you sound awesome. Like if you have something to teach, then like, yeah, teach us. Like I was looking at, I think Chris Burkhardt did something. I talk about him all the time because I think he's technically very skilled at what he does, and he does this one thing, and he's leaned into it quite a bit, and he does a great job at it. He was answering technical questions about his kit, about how he does things, about how he edits, and like that was interesting because you want to learn the process. So think about what you could actually teach people, and maybe ask when you go to solicit questions. Do it in a way where you get interesting questions. I would also, for me, if I was an influencer, I would probably like just ease off it for a week, honestly. I'm just skipping through. Like if I see that, I'm just like, oh, fuck this. I can't stand to see another person answering questions. It is just, it's constant and it's relentless. And for me, as like a user and consumer of content, I see it and I'm just like, you're so self-involved. I don't want to drone on about this. Usually my advice for influencers is when something new comes out to go out and try it. I think too many people right now are playing around with it. Just ease off for a week, and you can get your questions and do your answers later, or contain it and be like, oh, I'm going to do this one time. I'm going to keep it in a highlight, so I have like some frequently asked questions that, you know, if you're getting DMs about the same things over and over again, maybe you get those questions, you answer them, you do a really thorough, interesting, good job of that. Keep it as a highlighted story on your feed so that people who follow you can come and look at that as like a FAQ generally. So that's one thing. I think from a design standpoint, I saw Tezza doing it. I actually think she's probably the only person, I know we always go back to her, she does a great job. She's the only one recently that I've seen that I enjoyed reading hers. She had an interesting past I didn't know about. I didn't know she was a photographer before. I didn't really know much about her husband. I didn't know that she and her husband met. They grew up together. Their families have been best friends forever. So she met him when she was like 2. She also put different photos on every answer that were beautiful and made it like that kind of added to what she was saying. So I don't know if she still has that up as a highlight or anything, but unsurprisingly, I thought she did a good job. But I am bored by almost every other one I've seen. Question number 2 is, in 2018, if you feel stuck in a rut with your following, doesn't grow, what should you do? What's the influencer's final frontier? We've talked a lot about what to do when your following is stuck and you're stuck in a rut. I don't know when we talked about that.
It's been a while. That's why I wanted to say, I asked it before, so I wanted to do a refresh.
Yeah. So look, if your following's stuck in a rut and you want to grow, I would try new, my advice is always to try new things, switch it up, try something new. Dear Milano right now, she just switched to doing 3 images per, in one post. So she'll do, not a carousel, but she does the whole row. I don't always love that. She's doing a really nice job with it. She's seen, she's smart about this stuff. She's watching her stats. She's seeing that, yes, her individual engagement on each post isn't doing as well because they're made to be seen in a set of 3, but she's getting a huge amount of profile visits because people are wanting to come see the whole thing. And in a world where the algorithm is only, serving your imagery to 15 to 25% of your audience, give or take, if you can get those people to come to your profile, there's a good chance that they're going to go in and see things that they haven't seen before. That's a perfect example of someone who has been frustrated, tried something new. I don't know whether it's working from a following standpoint, but she's watching the data, looking at what happens, and trying to figure out if this is a good strategy for her. So you have to try new shit. Or the other thing is that sometimes, let's say this is what you're doing, right? What you're doing is just a line. It goes like this. And this is what the world wants, right? It's up here. And you're doing something, but people aren't super interested in it. That happens sometimes, that you have a thing that you're doing, but people don't care. And then sometimes those things come and converge eventually. It could be that you just do the thing that you do for 2 years and you don't get a huge following, but then the taste, what people want changes, taste changes, style changes, things like that. And then when the world comes around to a different viewpoint, you're there. A for instance would be, if you are somebody that dresses in, let's say, you kind of dress like a Blair Edie, right? And you're wearing, big, impactful outfits, a lot of ball skirts and gowns and dramatic stuff, right? That could be going really well for a while, and then maybe people's style changes and it goes more 90s and it goes more streetwear, and now all of a sudden you're not gaining as many followers because people aren't actively looking for that style or that thing. So these things happen in cycles, and if you feel like the thing you're doing isn't resonating with people, it doesn't mean that it won't resonate with them in a couple of years. This company's growth has not, has been fairly constant over 5 years, but it's definitely turned up and been growing a lot faster over the last 6 months. That is because we're doing a thing that is in much higher demand than it was 3 years ago. We're not doing anything really different. It's just that people want it. That can happen in your own feeds as well. So don't abandon your style. Don't abandon your point of view. I would never really change that. But you can change tactically how you're doing things and see if that can jumpstart your growth. Can you discuss aggregated content accounts on Instagram, possibilities of monetization? So let's say you run an account that isn't all original content. What can you do? First of all, you can charge for these accounts. If you have an account that's not all original, you can make money on that. It would be hard for you to make money on it if you didn't start pulling in some original content. I just don't see how, other than posting terrible ads, how you could monetize something if none of it is, I don't see how you could monetize your feed if none of it was your content and you weren't willing or able to create any content. I think that would be next to impossible. Now, there are other ways to monetize. You can help brands build their feeds. You can help with social strategy. You can help, do a lot of things. And in a lot of ways, you could make a lot more money doing that than, doing something on Instagram. It's just that, like, if you're not a content creator and you're a curator, doing sponsored posts is never going to make sense. So you're going to have to think of other ways to do things. If you wanted to be a little tricky, if you wanted to try something that would be a little different, you could charge influencers to post one of their photos. If you had a insanely engaged curated account that was style, and when you tagged someone or did a post about them saying go follow this person, they're amazing, they got 5,000 new followers because people trusted you so much, you could charge influencers for that. You could say, hey, you're struggling to find growth, give me $1,000. I'll post a couple of your photos over the next couple of weeks, push people to follow you. If you could drive followers to influencers, you could potentially charge influencers to do that. So that would be one kind of different way to make money. But I would probably focus on just pitching yourself as a strategist and a social media manager, strategist, whatever it might be for brands. It's probably your easier path to money if you're not willing to create original content. Without original content, there's really not much you can charge for. Yeah, if you're an influencer looking to grow, that's definitely one way to try and grow is get yourself onto those accounts. I can't remember who. One of the influencers we interviewed said that a lot of their growth came from that. They just got onto these, curated accounts, and they would get, a big bump in following from that. So definitely look to do that. And general influencers, like, it can be okay to throw inspiration in there if that's your brand. I think doing some of that is a nice way to not make it all about you. It doesn't necessarily have to be a static post. It can be in your stories. I think I follow this reporter. She doesn't really have a huge following, but Hannah Elliott. And her stories, a lot of times, most days, she throws 2 or 3 inspiration images in there. I screenshot those things a lot just because I find it interesting, and it's a nice way to kind of see what she is looking at. So, just influencers that run original content accounts, you might want to start pulling some inspiration in as well and sharing that with your audience, and maybe doing it in a consistent way on your stories every Friday. You're doing some inspiration. Speaking of that, I see a lot of influencers do the why you should follow someone, or they pick 5 influencers, they screenshot their feed and they tag them and say follow Friday or something like that, which I think is awesome and super nice to be supportive of each other. I would encourage anyone that does that to just add a little more context. I saw this guy, Jordan Bunker, who I've met with. He does it on Fridays, I think. Menswear guy out of London, and he will screenshot the feeds and tag them, and then does a final screen at the end where he gives a 2 or 3 sentence explanation of why he follows each person. It might be after. He might screenshot the feed, tag them, and then do a screen, a black screen after with an explanation of why. I like that. It gives me a little more context to whether or not this is someone I might want to follow. So do more than just say goals and then tag the person. If you're going to try and, kind of do that promotional support thing with influencers. Just do it in a way that actually is helpful to your audience. I think that's it. I got to wrap a present and go to a drinks meeting and then go to an event and then pass out. So I'm going to do that. Thank you. Cheers.